I'm Ezra Levant. It's June 5th, and you're watching Battleground. Welcome back to Battleground. It's something we do every day at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's 5 p.m. in the United Kingdom, Luton Standard Time. It's 9 a.m. on the west coast of North America. What do? We talk about the news of the day. For the last week and a half, we've been focused on our friend Tommy Robinson. He used to be a reporter here at The Rebel until he was unjustly imprisoned for reporting outside a rape gang trial in Leeds, United Kingdom. We'll be talking about that a lot. I have some more video for you today that I think will be shocking to you. It's not secret video. It's not hidden video. In fact, it's right out there. It's public video from the Parliament of the United Kingdom. A shocking engagement with YouTube's senior executive being grilled by Labour MPs in the United Kingdom, demanding that they shut down Tommy's YouTube account. I didn't see this when it came out originally. It's fairly recent. I'll show you footage. We'll play it. This is from the UK Parliament. We'll play you the attacks by Labour MPs demanding again and again and again, and shamelessly, not even doing so in private lobbying, but under the glare of spotlights on unofficial parliamentary TV, demanding that Google, YouTube ban Tommy Robinson. You can imagine that that's the same reason that Twitter banned Tommy Robinson and that Facebook has been having a slow motion war against Tommy Robinson. I'll show that to you later. I think I'm going to show you something else first, just while we let some more viewers come. I see there's 370 watching now, 369. I'm going to show you, we had a little support Tommy Robinson rally in Toronto, and our own David Menzies went there, and I thought he did a really nice job reporting on it. It was not a large rally, it was a spontaneous get-together. We've got about a 2-minute video from that I'll show you. But first, while we just said there's 415 folks watching now, I'll just let that number grow a bit. I want to show you it's completely different, but I think if you haven't seen it online, you're going to want to see it. It's Bill Clinton coming out of the shadows, looking extremely old and a little bit disoriented, being asked a question I don't think he's ever been asked in 20 years about Monica Lewinsky. It's a great question. I want to say one more thing before we get going. Of course, you're watching this primarily, I would imagine, on YouTube. We're also streaming it live simultaneously on Facebook. But if you want to chat, I'm looking at the YouTube chat. And if you want your chat to stand out, you can do what's called Super Chat. That's something that YouTube has invented. It basically lets you chip in a couple bucks, $5, or even more. I mean, you can even chip in $50 if you wanted. I've seen that happen a few times. Your comment is put in a bright highlighted color, and it is appended to the comment section for a period of time proportionate to your contribution. And the good news is that we get that dough here at The Rebel. It doesn't just go into Google's pockets, so it helps us pay the bills. Without further ado, I see there's over 500 folks watching now. I just want to start off with this video of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. I say again, let's just check the time. It's only 12:03. In about 10 minutes from now, when we have a good head of steam going, I'll show you the Tommy rally from Toronto. And then I'm going to show you video footage I doubt you've seen before, even though it's public. It's United Kingdom members of Parliament grilling Google executives about why they haven't banned Tommy. And it was quite something. I didn't think I would. I mean, parliamentary committees, those are almost the dictionary definition of boring, but I was riveted. I see a super chat in the corner of my eye. I'm just going to read that before we play the Bill Clinton video. Tom Youngjohn says, thanks for focusing on Tommy. Well, sure. I mean, first of all, I think we have some legacy with Tommy. We were the first media company that really got him going, that encouraged him to become a citizen journalist. He was with us for a year. He did over 100 videos for us. And I think we launched him. I mean, he would obviously say he launched himself, and obviously he did. He's responsible for himself and his own talent and his experience and wisdom. But I feel like we helped set him on the path, and we're at least a stepping stone for him. So of course we're interested. I also have a particular interest because it was a year ago that Tommy was arrested for contempt of court regarding a trial in Canterbury. So I have a particular experience and hiring lawyers to get him out of jail. That was something we quarterbacked here from our Rebel World headquarters in Toronto. And of course, everyone who cares about freedom should care about Tommy. We just happen to have a few extra reasons. Anyways, Bill Clinton has apparently written some book with some co-author. And Bill Clinton's not out there in public a lot. His wife, Hillary Clinton, probably more accurately to call his ex-wife. I don't think they live in the same city, actually, most of the time. But they keep things up for appearance's sake. Hillary Clinton has been, we can't get rid of her in the public eye, and her health issues have been a big news item. But Bill Clinton has not really done a lot of public stuff. And so my first reaction upon seeing this video I'm about to play is, boy, he's old. We're all getting old, but I feel like he's losing his edge, and he's stuck in a loop. And he was asked some questions. I'm going to play the whole clip now. He was asked some questions that I don't think he's ever been asked before about Monica Lewinsky. And his answers are so tone deaf. And at one point, his co-author steps in to help Bill Clinton. When was the last time you ever saw Bill Clinton need help to get out of a tough question? The opposite. He's the master communicator, the master emoter. In some ways, he was a more effective politician even than Barack Obama. Without further ado, let me show you this riveting clip. Take a look.
One of the things that this Me Too era has done, it's forced a lot of women to speak out. One of those women, Monica Lewinsky, she wrote in an op-ed that the Me Too movement changed her view of sexual harassment. Quote, "He was my boss. He was the most powerful man on the planet. He was 27 years my senior. With enough life experience to know better, he was at the time at the pinnacle of his career while I was in my first job out of college." Looking back on what happened then, through the lens of Me Too now, do you think differently or feel more responsibility?
No, I felt terrible then, and I came to grips with it.
Did you ever apologize to him?
No, yes, and nobody believes that I got out of that for free. I left the White House $16 million in debt. But you typically have ignored gaping facts in describing this, and I bet you don't even know them. This was litigated 20 years ago. 2/3 of the American people sided with me. They were not insensitive to that. I had a sexual harassment policy when I was governor in the 80s. I had 2 women chiefs of staff when I was governor. Women were overrepresented in the Attorney General's office in the 70s for their percentage in the bar. I've had nothing but women leaders in my office since I left. You are giving one side and omitting facts.
Mr. President, I'm not trying to present a side.
You asked me if I agreed. The answer is no, I don't.
And I asked if you'd ever apologized, and you said you had.
I have.
You've apologized to him.
I apologize to everybody in the world.
Okay, we're not done the clip, friends. Keep playing the clip because it goes on. Okay, we're gonna. Sorry, this is where it starts to get good. Sorry about that technical glitch there. He gets so defensive, and he says he apologizes. He has said he apologized to the whole world, but then he's pressed on whether or not he actually apologizes to Monica Lewinsky. I'm sorry we don't have that clip handy. What I'm going to do instead, while we get that full clip, is I'm going to proceed with the Tommy Robinson rally here in Toronto, and I don't want to overstate it. It was a small rally, but I thought the people who were there understood very clearly what the issues were. I thought they were very credible and passionate. And without further ado, let me play for you David Menzies' report from the pro-Tommy rally in Toronto. And during that time, we'll get the right clip for Monica Lewinsky, because you just got to see it. And it's a shame because we just ended the clip right when it was about to get spicy. Anyway, here's our own David Menzies in downtown Toronto talking about people rallying here in Canada for Tommy Robinson.
It's been exactly 1 week since Tommy Robinson was arrested and thrown in jail for 13 months. Now, ostensibly, the reason was contempt of court. But a lot of people aren't buying that. When you look at what Tommy did that day, he wasn't on court property. He was saying nothing libelous. He was reporting nothing that hadn't been reported by the mainstream British press. So what is the real reason Tommy Robinson is behind bars right now? Is it because of who he is and what he says? Well, millions of people around the world are not happy with this, including dozens here who have assembled outside the British consulate in Toronto to vent their rage and frustration about what they consider to be a miscarriage of justice.
What have they done there regarding these rape groups? What have they done? Nothing. It's up to us citizens and the Tommies of the world. I thank God for them for putting themselves in harm's way to expose what is going on within our country.
Tommy Robinson is the victim of a police state right now. I'm really, really discouraged about what's happening in the mother country. We can't allow that to happen here in Canada. We have to be very careful. Next year, we have to remove the regime that we have in Ottawa right now because they pander to all of this, and that's why I'm here.
If Britain loses free speech, Canada is going to be next.
I believe in free speech, and I don't believe what happened to Tommy was rape, no matter what country it's in. And it's happening in the UK, which means it's going to happen here with things like M103, C16. Before you know it, they're going to be throwing our own citizens in jail for the same reason.
The play is already written, and the players were just following the script that they were handed, which, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's what happened. We watched a play called The Arrest of Freedom, and Tommy Robinson was the lead actor in that play.
I do think he's a political prisoner. I absolutely would agree with that statement. There's no doubt about it.
The grandfathers, the great-grandfathers of the British people now fought what they have become.
Land of hope and glory, mother of the free, not anymore.
And this is a free world fight. This is the Americans' fight as much as it's the Canadians' fight and the Australians and everybody else in the free world. If we don't stop this encroachment on our freedom, we're going to end up slaves to the one world cabal.
Rebuild liberty, no censorship.
Free Tommy Robinson! 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 Free Tommy Robinson!
Obviously, he's a canary in the coal mine that Canada's watching very closely, and they're going to roll it out on you. You're the next one that's going to be targeted if it works on Tommy. If there's not enough outrage, if we can't muster more than 50 people, because everyone watches cable. Everyone accepts the answer that's easiest for them to digest, that everyone's racist, and if you call that out, you don't need to think anymore on uncomfortable things. So Tommy is the speaker of uncomfortable things.
Rape is a crime, for God's sakes. And going after minors? Are you kidding? The entire country should be up in arms, protesting. This needs to stop. Enough of this political correctness. Enough of trying to embrace an ideology that doesn't fit in with our country. And if it goes against every one of our laws, and what, we're going to throw people in jail because they're speaking up against the crimes that they're committing? How is that right? How is that right? What is happening to society? Wake up, people.
If we don't step up, what's going to happen here?
Our media, fake news, is not allowed to broadcast any of this. They don't want us to know anything about what's happening in the UK right now for fear that Canadians may start to wake up.
Well, what do you think of that report from David Menzies? I thought those were very thoughtful, reflective, and even philosophical comments. I think that those protesters were deeply informed. I have to tell you that most protests I see in Canada, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and in the Western world are really fake. They're professional protesters who pick up the picket sign of the day. We're against fracking today, we're against America tomorrow, we're against, we're for Antifa. I mean, it's a professional leftist protest set, and one of my easy moves, it's too easy to do, I haven't done it recently, but I've probably done it 20 times. You go to a protest and you just ask the toughest question ever of a leftist protester: why are you here? And they have no clue. They have no clue. What is fracking? What is a GMO food? What's the difference between GMO and organic? I'm just giving examples. You're against an oil pipeline. Did you drive here? You're against capitalism. is that an iPhone? How much did you spend on your iPhone? Do you have, I mean, it's too easy, am I right? Because most leftist protesters have no clue what they're protesting. They're either doing it for cash or for fun or just for the sake of community, but they don't understand. But every single person in that Save Tommy rally had thought deeply about why they were there. Would you agree with me? I don't know if I agree with every single word there, but everyone there had thought things through. And I was deeply impressed with that. I also liked the editing. I thought it was nice to let the people speak. David was just gently coaxing the answers. And I thought the music in the background actually was a nice touch. That's my own view. Anyways, that was in Toronto. I see a few super chats have come in. Let me just quickly cover those. And we found the full clip of the Lewinsky matter. And I'm going to play that for you just because it was, and I know we've been talking a lot about Tommy, but you really got to enjoy it. I already read Tom Young John, who said, thanks for focusing on Tommy. Well, our pleasure. Primus81 chipped in $5. I don't see a comment, but thank you for the $5. I'm just scrolling through here. Tamajit Chakraborty says, why do Naturai Karti Haredi Jews demand the destruction of Israel? That's a very bizarre question. There is a very obscure, very small, extreme group of ultra-religious Jews who are against the modern state of Israel, and they often team up with anti-Semitic protesters because they have that one common ground. They don't like the state of Israel. And of course, if you're an anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protester, it's great to have these very Jews with very ornate black hats and whatnot, because then you can say, I'm not an anti-Semite, these wackos do believe it too. The answer for why they believe it is they're so ultra-religious, they believe that the state of Israel should not exist until the Jewish Messiah comes. And to try to have a state of Israel before the Messiah comes is ungodly. That's not for man to do, that's for God to do, and we should be in exile. We, the Jews, should be in exile until then. So that's the technical answer for the bizarre thing. You see them from time to time. They're a favorite of the anti-Semitic left. I see a tweet. The truth, Ezra, will Rebel Media be streaming the March for Tommy on Saturday, the 9th of June? That will get big viewings. Also, Tommy Robinson, Gerard Batten, and Anne-Marie Waters should unite in one political party if only they knew what support that would get. Well, there's a lot of interesting things in your comment. Thank you very much, and thank you for the generosity of your super chat. I hadn't contemplating live streaming it, but maybe we will. Maybe we could find out where it'll be. I don't think we'll have a camera there ourselves, although who knows, maybe we will. But we could embed someone else's YouTube stream in our website. I think that's a good idea. I like both Anne-Marie Waters and Gerard Batten. They're very, very different people, aren't they? And I don't know if they're compatible, frankly. They're very different in their style, their history, their focus. I like both in their own way. But you're right. I think the dissident right in the UK is too split right now. And the UK had a lot of momentum, but it's almost being deconstructed by its own leadership. Gerard Batten sort of saved the party. Anne-Marie Waters, I think she would have been an interesting leader of UKIP, but of course she was sort of run out of there by the UKIP. I admire them both. I don't know if you saw my interview with Gerard Batten the other day. We emailed it to our UK supporters. I really enjoyed meeting him. Eagle's Nest says, Ezra, you're the best. Well, that's very nice of you to say. We have a great team here, and we try to focus on the other side of the story that the mainstream media won't. Anyway, so my team tells me we have the rest of the clip on Bill Clinton. I just see one more super chat I'm going to read, and then I'm going to play you the rest of that Clinton clip. And I know we love talking about Tommy, and there's a lot to talk about, and I've got video for you today. But let's just read a few super chats first, so give me a minute. I see Mouthwash Typhoon, looks like they're from Australia. It says, while it's possible that Tommy may have somehow broken the law, the judge is judge, jury, and executioner, no legal safeguards or objectivity. Yeah, we talked about this before last week, about the nature of contempt of court. A judge who's angry about something affecting his or her trial is the complainer, the complainant, and the prosecutor, and the judge of his own matter. And the fact that, and that's just how it is in contempt of court, I find it a very odd kind of law, not like traditional law in the UK, the US, Canada, where you have a pro and a con, and then a neutral arbiter. In this case, the judge, him or herself, is all of those three things. I guess Tommy had his own lawyer. So yeah, one more thing that comes to mind is when the judge is angry at Tommy, as obviously the judge was, there was no time for the judge to cool off a bit. The judge went from angry to summon that man to sentencing him to 13 months in prison. That all happened in hours, as opposed to in Canterbury a year ago when the judge had a week or two to cool off. So you're so right. Let me just quickly read some more super chats here. MD Pruel, thank you very much for your $20 contribution. Ian Baxter, could Jack Buckby not stream it for Rebel? That's a good idea. Jack is located in the UK for us, and I think you're right. I think he should be there. I think that's going to be something our people would care about, so I appreciate the suggestion. My team has emailed me that there's one more super chat. Raven Wolfgang says, it was great to have met you last Saturday. Some of the video was cut for lack of memory. I was so out of my element. Thank you for being kind to me, XO. Well, Raven, it sure was nice to meet you. I was glad you were there at Rebel Live. We had about 500 folks there. It's a little bit less than last year, but I think it was the timing. Having it on the last weekend before the election, so many of our people are activists, and they were out door knocking and putting up lawn signs for the election. But still, I thought it was pretty great. Andrew Sr. chips in £2 and says, brilliant, thank you, Canada. Well, yeah, wasn't that a nice little rally? And would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that everyone there had something thoughtful to say? All right, it's 12:21 p.m. We've used up a third of our time already. Let's quickly play the Bill Clinton clips because I want to get to the Tommy stuff afterwards. So here, sorry for the hiccup last time. I think that was my fault. I gave not a full clip to our team. Here's the full clip of Bill Clinton. And watch, he gives a pat answer once or twice, but to his credit, the journalist presses. And he presses into somewhere where Bill Clinton had never gone before, and it gets sort of pitiful sort of quick. Take a look.
I have.
You've apologized to her.
I apologize to everybody in the world.
It is important to me that everybody who has been hurt know that the sorrow I feel is genuine. First and most important, my family, Monica Lewinsky and her family.
But you didn't apologize to her.
I have not talked to her.
Do you feel like you owe her an apology?
No, I do. I do not. I've never talked to her. But I did say publicly on more than one occasion that I was sorry. That's very different. The apology was public.
And you don't think a private apology is owed?
I think this thing it's 20 years ago. Come on. Let's talk about JFK. Let's talk about, LBJ. Stop already.
I don't think you think President Kennedy should have resigned? Do you believe President Johnson should have resigned? Someone should ask you these questions because of the way you formulate the questions. I dealt with it 20 years ago plus, and the American people, 2/3 of them stayed with me, and I've tried to do a good job since then with my life and with my work. That's all I have to say to you.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was awful. That was awful. No, I didn't apologize to her. No, I don't think I need to. And for that other old timer to weigh in. Oh, can we talk about, hey, how about, can I distract you by saying, what about JFK? What's that got to do with whether or not Bill Clinton apologized to him for 20 years? And he's so proud of the fact that he hasn't talked to her for 20 years. And he's the victim, don't you know? And everyone's so unfair to him. Boy, the era of Clinton is over, isn't it? I sort of liked remembering Bill Clinton as vigorous and smart and savvy and maybe the best campaigner of our generation. It's sort of pitiful to see him. Imagine him being first lady or first husband or whatever his title would be. Boy, America dodged a bullet. A new super chat from Power of Wish. Lawsuit just filed by Renata Ford can potentially sway undecided Ontario voters or rob Ford faithful. What can be said to persuade them otherwise? Well, look, I really don't know. It's a family business and a family quarrel. Yes, some of Doug Ford's support is obviously hung over from his late brother Rob's support, but I actually don't think this is going to change. I mean, if you're a Doug Ford supporter and the fact that there's a family quarrel, is that going to make you suddenly embrace the NDP or Kathleen Wynne? I just don't think so. I actually don't think this is going to move the needle, other than for the media party, which loves a Ford family scandal. Yeah, I actually think this is a tempest in a teapot. I'm not saying there's no problem there. I'm just saying I don't think voters are going to bite. All right, it's 12:25, and we've shown you the Tommy rally in Toronto. We've shown you that Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky thing. I just wanted to show it to you because I thought it was actually sort of incredible. I think I've caught up on the super chats. Is that right? Did I miss any super chats? Looks like I'm up to date. Now I want to show you something, and I'm going to take the rest of the show for this. I am going to try and read your super chats, but I want you to see this. Let me set the table here. This is, as you know, in Parliament in Canada, in the United Kingdom, just like in the Congress in the United States, there's the work in the actual chamber where there's debates and votes, but then there's committee work. And committees often summon witnesses who are experts or representing some institution that's in the news. And of course, Facebook, Twitter, social media giants are in the news. And this is William McCants. That's his name, William McCants. He's the global policy lead for counterterrorism at YouTube and Google. So he's in charge. It's a tough job. And by the way, he's a very senior guy. His CV is, he's not a guy who came up through tech. He came up through counterterrorism, and Google and YouTube said, we need your help because there's a lot of terrorists using YouTube and Google to spread their propaganda. Help us challenge this. So kudos to Google and YouTube for hiring a guy like that. And he was invited by the UK Home Affairs Committee. So it's a pretty broad committee covering a lot. Basically, home affairs is the opposite of foreign affairs, isn't it? Eagles Nest chipped in $100 saying you're the best. Well, I think I might have read that already. Thank you for that. So you've got this YouTube and Google are the same companies, you probably know. So this guy comes in, he's obviously American, you can tell from his accent and his history. And they do ask him about terrorism. You know what terrorists are, right? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab. I suppose in the UK there's also the IRA, but they're more dormant these days. Western countries like the UK, Canada, and the US have lists of banned terrorist entities, and they're overwhelmingly Islamic. They just are. Can you name for me a terrorist group that's active that is not Islamic in character? I actually cannot. I suppose the Red Brigades or something, but when was the last time they did anything? So who do you think these UK MPs asked Mr. McCants about? ISIS? Al-Qaeda? Hezbollah? Hamas? Who did they shout at him? I mean, I wouldn't say shout, but boy, they raised their voices, and boy, they interrupted. They were mad. They weren't mad about Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They were mad that he hadn't shut down Tommy Robinson's YouTube page. What we're going to do now is I'm going to roll the video, and I'm just going to let it go for a bit, and then I'm going to signal to my team, stop, and then I'll comment a bit, and then we'll roll the video again, and then I'll say stop, and we'll comment a bit, and we'll see how much we can get through. So it's 12:28. I've watched about 15 minutes of this. I'm going to give you some commentary. I think we can get through about 15 minutes in the 32 minutes we have left. So without further ado, so this is a YouTube Google head of counterterrorism at the UK Parliament, speaking before the Home Affairs Committee, being grilled by members of Parliament. Go ahead, please roll the footage.
Your algorithms on YouTube, when you are searching for national action, will then promote the likes of Tommy Robinson and Britain First. This is despite the fact that the Finsbury Park Mosque, where somebody was killed, and that's recently been in the headlines, despite the fact that videos of Tommy Robinson were cited as part of the online radicalisation of Darren Osborne in the Finsbury Park court case, YouTube continues to promote them videos. What have you got to say about that?
We are working to make sure that videos that promote hate or promote violence, if they violate our policies, are removed from the platform. If they walk right up to the line, we have also, at the encouragement of this committee, developed a new enforcement mechanism to limit the features that these have. They should not be appearing in our recommendation engine. If they are, I will take this back to our team and see what the problem is.
Okay, but
Okay, let's just stop there for a second. That woman, she's a Labour MP named Naz Shah. She's a Labour MP for Bradford West. And just to remind you who she is, she's a Labour MP who tweeted that the Rotherham rape gang victims should basically shut up. I don't have the tweet handy. Maybe we can Google that. If Justin or Hannah, can you Google Naz Shah Rotherham? Her Twitter. I don't want to paraphrase it because what she actually wrote is far worse than anything I would paraphrase. So I want to let you know she is as close to a defender of Islamic rape gangs as you could possibly find in Parliament. I'm not saying she defends the rape gangs, but she's as close to one as possible. She denounces their victims. So that tells you where her moral center of gravity is. And you see what she did? She said, Tommy Robinson caused terrorism. Tommy Robinson's videos, I haven't watched all of them since he left us, but I obviously watched all the ones he did with us. He is against violence. That's his whole raison d'etre. He wants to stop the violence, either terrorist violence or this rape gang violence. For her to imply that Tommy Robinson's videos are terrorist or hate-mongering because some person who ran over a Muslim had got an email from Tommy Robinson that we send out by the hundreds of thousands is a lie. You'll notice she doesn't refer to any particular Tommy Robinson video because he has never counseled violence ever. In fact, he says if we don't fix this problem peacefully, it will lead to more violence. We have to fix it. My team has the Naz Shah tweet. Why don't you put that up there? I'll show it. So do you see she shared, she liked, and retweeted. Okay, so understand what we're looking at here for those who know Twitter. Someone wrote, exactly, those abused girls in Rotherham and elsewhere just need to shut their mouths for the good of diversity. And Naz Shah liked that and retweeted it. And she's the one saying, take those Tommy Robinson vids down. Okay, thanks for showing that. I just want to quickly read some super chats. Philippe Binda says, hello, I do not know how to write very well in English, but I'll try. I live in London, I'm Brazilian, and everything that's happening here is also happening all over the world. Well, thank you, Philippe. Your English looks actually perfect to me, so you're too self-conscious. I see another comment by you, Philippe. Tommy will set an example for governments to do this to everyone who disagrees. Communism has returned. I stopped studying English because I was tired of looking at Stalin's photo in UK public school. Well, first of all, I say again, your English is perfect. At least it appears that way to me. I didn't know you looked at Stalin in UK public school, but I think you're right. We think Stalin looks like a big bushy, Soviet type, but I think Stalinism, or at least authoritarianism these days, comes with a smile, comes with the name of diversity and tolerance, says it's liberal. It doesn't look like a secret policeman or an SS soldier, doesn't it? Let's keep going. Oh, there's one more super chat I'll just read very quickly. Locky Gamer says, any plans for more UK-based reporters for The Rebel? Lord knows we need more voices like yours. Keep up the great work. Well, thanks very much. We have Katie Hopkins, who's great. We have Jack Buckby, who was mentioned. And I don't know if we're at liberty to discuss the debut of our new talent in the UK yet. Have we announced that yet? When do we plan to announce that? Do we? I'm just asking our team here. Do we know when we're in a position to announce our new talent? Yeah. I just heard in my ear, I was talking to my team. We will be announcing a new UK talent this week. So forgive me for not preempting myself and scooping ourselves, but we will have another name of someone joining our team this week. So thank you for your questions. Okay. The answer by William McCants was, we don't want to show anything hateful or violent, and I'll bring the recommendation back. So to his credit, he did not speak specifically about Tommy Robinson. He said, I'll take the concerns back to the team. He surely doesn't know what video she's talking about. I'm sure the head of global counterterrorism for Google is not focused on Tommy Robinson because he's not a terrorist. Anyway, let's keep watching that clip from where we left off.
are. I mean, they are appearing. They are in my recommended timeline at the moment. So because I've been searching on my iPad for National Action videos, I, as a result, have the first 2 videos recommended to me by YouTube. When I just click on, as I've just done with this afternoon, I click onto YouTube, the first 2 recommendations are Tommy Robinson videos. So the Tommy Robinson that was identified as part of the Finsbury Park online radicalisation process, that's what YouTube's recommended. I've not searched for it. YouTube has recommended that to me. Doesn't that cause you some serious alarm?
I can't speak to these particular videos personally. It causes me a lot of alarm, but I will take this back to our team and see why this has happened.
It's not even just about the individual videos.
Just pause it there. I'll pick it up in a second. So she's mad that Tommy shows up in her suggested videos. I have no idea what she's Googling. And I say again that William McCants, who is in the counterterrorism business, I bet he has no idea who Tommy Robinson is. Because Tommy Robinson is not a terrorist. Tommy Robinson is a anti-terrorist, anti-Sharia law pundit. He's never been arrested for terrorism, never been charged with terrorism, never been a member of a terrorist group. That is so obvious to say. Even more obvious, I think, is that he is anti-terrorist. And even more obvious than that is he's a political pundit. He's a commentator. But this Labour MP, if you like the first one, I think this second one is Yvette Cooper, Labour MP for Normanton, Pontefract, Castleford, and Nottingley. How's that for a mouthful? She is furious because she doesn't want to have to look at Tommy's face, and instead of just clicking away or not clicking on the Tommy videos, like she's furious that Google is suggesting she might be interested in a Tommy video given what she's Googling. And that's too much for her. She's triggered by that microaggression. So she wants YouTube Google to somehow intervene and stop her from having to see Tommy. Hey lady, you don't have to click on the play button. Okay, keep going from here.
It's actually a recommended channel. I have got up here, it is coming up as my recommended channels, that one of the recommended channels for me is Tommy Robinson recommended channel. I've also got British Warrior, I've got a series of other, quite sort of extreme things that are coming up, but I have specifically Tommy Robinson recommended channel. You can pass you my...
You know what? Google, billions of users. I don't know the exact number, more than 1 billion. Facebook has 2 billion users. Wouldn't surprise me if there's 2 billion Google users. I have some quarrels with the Google algorithm, the YouTube algorithm. They do censor things. We know that. We've had that confirmed to us by Google when we complain about censorship of our work. But would you agree with me, my dear viewers, that any Google or YouTube algorithm that is serving up Tommy Robinson videos to that Labour MP, Yvette Cooper, is bloody brilliant, to use a Britishism, is doing its job perfectly well? Would you not agree with me, viewers, that Yvette Cooper is actually obsessed with Tommy Robinson? And Google has somehow detected that and is actually giving her what she wants. You know, Howard Stern is quite a phenomenon in the United States. And there was a saying, and it rings true for me, that people who loved Howard Stern listened to him because they couldn't wait to see what he said next. And people who hated Howard Stern listened to him because they couldn't wait to see what he said next. As many people listened to Stern, or at least pretended to hate him, and listened to him as genuine fans. They would say, "Oh, I'm listening to Howard Stern ironically. Oh, I that wasn't laugh. I was just coughing. I wasn't laughing at his jokes." You see what I mean? I think people like to say they hate Howard Stern and they just listen to him because he's actually bloody hilarious. And I think this woman here who hates Tommy Robinson has probably watched more Tommy Robinson videos than I have. And I used to be Tommy's boss. Would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that algorithm is exactly working so well? It's almost like it has ESP or something. All right, we're going to load up a few more because we've still got 20 minutes. While we're loading up some more of that vid, I see some more super chats coming through. /Satan says, Clintons are full of shit, and thanks, Ezra, for sticking on Tommy. Do you honestly think he will be freed early, and will all these protests have any effect? Thank you. Free Tommy. Well, in the United Kingdom, like in Canada, and I'm not as familiar with the United States, traditionally you get out before your full sentence is served. In Canada, we have something called statutory release, which means it's almost impossible to serve more than 2/3 of your sentence. You're really kicked out of prison at 2/3. In Canada, and I'm not up on the latest, so forgive me if there have been some amendments. I used to follow this more closely when I went to law school, for example, that's 20 years ago. Typically, you get parole, as it's called here, after 1/3 of the sentence, and day parole after 1/6 of the sentence. Now, that's what it was. I honestly haven't looked into parole laws in years, so it might be slightly changed. In the UK, I think they use the word tag. You're out on tag. You get tag. I think that's the word they use. And that often means you have a little anklet, like a GPS tracker. You know what I'm talking about. So if there is no appeal of the sentence, it may be that Tommy doesn't serve 13 months. It may be that he serves half that or 1/3 of that. I'm just not expert enough in UK law to know. I just don't know. I'm sorry. But that is an extraordinary amount of time to serve for the most trifling activities on his part. Last week we had a show where we went through a bunch of contempt of court cases, and typically contempt of court does not result in a custodial sentence at all. And in the extreme case I showed last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday, of a woman named Aisha Ali Khan, if I recall. She violated 2 court orders 26 times and was sentenced to 12 weeks, not 13 months. Cyberpunk says, please read American Betrayal, The Secret Assault on Our Nation's Character by Diana West. Okay, I'm familiar with Diana West a little bit, but I'm not familiar with that book. Okay, I think I've caught up on the Super Chats. It's 12:42, we've got 18 more minutes. Let me play some more, because, and I just say again, this guy's in charge of fighting terrorists. He's not in charge of censoring mean words on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. You understand the difference, right? A terrorist wants to blow you up. A terrorist wants to cut off your head. A terrorist wants to take a van and drive it on Westminster Bridge and hit people. A terrorist wants to blow up the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. A terrorist wants to put a bomb on a double-decker bus. A terrorist wants to fly a plane into a building. You understand the gravity of terrorism. And these folks are asking this counterterrorism boss. He's the boss of counterterrorism at Google, and yes, they need such a boss because they don't want their technology being colonized or used by terrorists. They're asking him about a pundit that they don't like? Yeah. Here, watch a little more.
iPad.
It's important for the company and for our bottom line, for the recommendation engine to work as it is intended to make sure that people can find quality content that they are looking for. It should not be serving up videos that incite or inspire hate. If it is, there is a problem, and I will take it back to the team and see that it's addressed.
But lots of people have raised this with you. This is not just us. This is not the first time. I do not believe this is the first time you have heard this. Allegations and concerns that your algorithms are promoting more and more extreme content at people. Whatever they search for, what they get back is a whole load more extreme recommendations coming through the algorithms. You are the king of the search engine, and yet your search engines are promoting things that further and further radicalize people. Whatever they search for, they get something more back.
And we are working to make sure that is not happening. We, for example, on news...
Okay, let me just stop that there. There's no basis given by Yvette Cooper that, and I don't even know how it would be possible, that if you search for something, Google gives you things more extreme back. I think she just made that up. How would that even work? And what is more extreme? How would that even be calculated? And what does extreme mean? I know what terrorist means. I know the plain definition of that term. It's violence for political purposes. So that's not Tommy. I also know another definition of terrorism. The countries, UK, Canada, US, other countries, have formal lists of terrorist groups. You can Google it for your own country. In Canada, our homeland, our public safety ministry, public security ministry has a list of banned terrorist entities. So you know a terrorist group because they're violent for political ends. You can check a list of terrorist groups with your government. But what's extreme mean? Extreme means very. Very what? Very left-wing, very right-wing? If you're not violent, what's the problem? I mean, Bernie Sanders is extremely socialist. He's not violent. He's a kook. He's not violent. That Labour MP, Naz Shah, is extremely distasteful and extremely rude to young girls who have been raped. I don't think she's violent. What does it mean to say don't promote extremism? I think I know what Islamic extremism is. But it's a weaponized form of extremism that leads to certain measurable things like jihad. Let's play some more.
Where we have a lot of problems in this space, we are beginning to use an authority ranking to make sure that when you start with the news from a quality source, that you continue to be suggested news from quality sources.
Raymond Chisty.
Just a couple of points, if I may. With regards to the tragic and horrific incident at Finsbury Park Mosque, the vile act carried out by Darren Osborne, and the following judgment given by Mrs. Jasla Chima-Garb to say the short time between seeing the material, being radicalised and carrying out a violent terrorist incident, that the individual had in part been radicalised by seeing material by Tommy Robinson. Your experience, you've worked at the State Department advising on extremism. I've seen you've written a number of books. You've been at a number of think tanks. The vile material put out by Tommy Robinson, just in the question earlier that you raised about your policy and your criteria, does his vile poison material online violate your policy criteria?
I can say in general that hateful content can create an atmosphere that can lead people to radicalize. Whether his specific statements fall foul of our guidelines or not, I cannot tell you without looking at the specific content.
Can I just ask you, this is what concerns me. You're saying you cannot tell me without looking at it. There was a High Court decision in which his name was mentioned, that he was linked to having radicalised an individual who carried out terrorist attacks. And then you're saying to me, since then, you have not looked at your criteria to see if that individual's material is radicalising individuals with your own expertise in radicalisation and extremism, which is all listed over here. You haven't done that.
I can't speak to this specific content.
Your organisation haven't done that.
I can't speak to that either.
Do you think you should have done that? As an organisation, after there's a High Court judgment to say an individual's been mentioned in that, Tommy Robinson, his vile views had led to an individual being radicalised into carrying out a terrorist attack in the United Kingdom. First duty of the state is to protect its citizens. Following from that judgment, that name is mentioned in that. Do you not think you should have looked at that name and thought if he...
Let's pause it there for a second. Can I say the obvious thing here? These members of Parliament want to gag Tommy Robinson. Is that not obvious? I mean, could they be more obvious about what they would do if they were the government? Those are Labour MPs, Naz Shah and Yvette Cooper, and my colleagues are just looking at the name of that last MP there. The fury and the rage they have, that they have not yet got Google to ban Tommy for them. To his credit, William McCants has not condemned Tommy simply because I don't think he knows who Tommy is. And how could he say, you're right? I mean, they're very mad, they're very passionate, they're very angry, it is extremely clear what they want, but he has enough integrity, William McCants, to at least for now say, well, I'll have to look into that. I don't know about that particular case. And they are sputtering mad because they are all obsessed with Tommy. That one woman, Yvette Cooper, says, I just keep Googling. You know, it reminds me of the old joke, you know, back a long time ago before caller ID, you know, way back when, you know, telephones were at home and something. And there was this thing called, you know, harassing phone calls, because that was before caller ID. So someone would it was sort of a thing. I think it was more apocryphal than real. People would call you up with a sexually explicit phone call, and you would hang up on them, and they would get their thrills that way. And the joke, I'm not even saying it right because I don't even remember what that kind of a call was called back before caller ID. But the joke was, "Officer, I'm calling to complain about this sexually explicit phone call I received from this crank call." "Oh, really? What are the details?" "Well, he kept me on the phone for an hour, officer." As in, well, maybe if you were on the phone for an hour, you actually sort of liked that phone call. That's the joke, at least. And do you see how I might apply that here? These people, "Hey, Mr. Google, I just keep searching for Tommy and Tommy and Tommy and Tommy, and Google suggests Tommy videos, and I'm outraged." Yeah, it's because you're running a little hot on Tommy there. But to take that last MP seriously, he called Tommy's comments, he used two words. One was vile, V-I-L-E, and one was poison. Can you measure that? Vile really goes to taste. Oh, that's vile. How does that? Oh, did you try the soup? Yeah, it's vile. I mean, vile just means you really don't like something. You're disgusted by it, and it's unappealing in the extreme. How would that sort of fit with the head of counterterrorism for Google? "You got to stop the vile stuff, sir." Okay, I'll just type that in the algorithm. No vile stuff, according to a cranky Labour MP who would censor everything he doesn't like. Let me just see if have I missed any more super chats, you guys? I don't. Oh, yeah. I see one from Tame Thing 1 who says, "Free speech, free Tommy. Thank you, Rebel Media." Well, you are welcome. Okay, let's play just a little more. Let's check the time. It's 12:51. We got time for some more. They get so frustrated with him because he's an expert in terrorism, and they really, really, really want him to be a pundit like them. Here, let's play for a little bit more.
His vile views violate your policy criteria?
I will certainly take it back to our team.
I have no further questions.
Douglas Ross.
On the record, because you skimmed over it earlier, in your 4 months in position, have you made any requests for improvements or additional measures that have been denied by your managers?
No.
No. So you believe that the current tools you have in the box are enough to deal with this?
No, we are putting more tools in place. I have recommended some of them, but it takes
but
a while.
everything you've recommended has been approved, yet we're told this morning there's still this material available.
Yes, sir, but clearly we are falling short.
So after this meeting, you'll go back to your managers and say we need to do further action?
Absolutely.
And what kind of things will that be?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that prescribed groups do not have a presence on our platform. If they are, we are falling short.
In your 4 months in post, this has been happening, and it is happening this morning, yet you're not asking your managers for any additional measures to assist you.
I have asked for additional measures. They are putting them in place.
Okay, and final point, you opened your statement to say there are 3 actions that you've taken to improve this. When did they start?
Immediately.
From when?
From when the videos were escalated to us, we could clearly see there was a volume in our
okay,
there was a problem in our review system.
Tell me, when did these start to go to specialised reviewers?
Immediately.
On what date?
Now.
No, immediately is when you asked for it to be done.
Right, and it's been done.
No, but so when is immediate? When did you ask for it to be done then?
When
was
the
it
videos,
today?
No,
was it yesterday? Was it Friday?
You know, it just degenerates there. Here's the problem. He's a counterterrorism expert. He seems like a nice guy. Seems a little geeky, as you would expect a counterterrorism expert hired by Google. And if I heard that right, he was hired by Google just 4 months ago. So, hey, get to know the world's largest internet company in 4 months and then come be grilled on it. They go on, they talk to him about, well, do you know if your staff are contractors or staffers? What city are they in? Trivia, minutia, just to heckle him and haggle him. I'm not defending him particularly. For all I know, he is going to censor political views. I don't know. But he's honest enough that when he's asked questions he doesn't know, I mean, it goes on and on. It gets dumber and dumber. If you really want to watch the rest of it, you can find it yourself. They just start heckling him, or what percentage of these human editors are located in Ireland, what percentage are located in the UK, in America. They're just like, what is that? Why is that interesting? I'll tell you why that's interesting, because they don't actually have any real questions for him about terrorism, because they actually don't care. You'll notice they're not asking him about terrorism. He's the head of counterterrorism for Google YouTube. They're not asking him about that. You'll notice the phrase proscribed groups. Proscribed groups. That means banned groups. That's that list I was talking about that the UK, US, and Canada have. Tommy ain't on a banned group, just like Piers Morgan isn't on a banned group, if you want a UK example. Just like, Rachel Maddow or Keith Olbermann from MSNBC or wherever Keith Olbermann is these days. They're not on a prescribed group. Samantha Bee is not on a prescribed group. That Michelle Wolf, the awful, awful comedian from the White House Correspondents' Dinner, she's not on a prescribed group because they're not terrorists. Are they irritating? Yes. Does Tommy irritate people? You've just seen 3 or 4 MPs who are so agitated, I think they're going to get a rash. But why are you bugging someone who has spent his life fighting Al-Qaeda? Why are you asking him why Tommy's videos show up in your search feed? It's like occasionally when I get emails saying, Ezra, there's a banner ad on The Rebel for a dating site. How come you guys are selling ads to sexy singles sites? Well, the answer is every person who comes to our website gets a different ad based on the cookies in their browser, right? So if you're getting a dating site at The Rebel, it's not because of us, it's because of you. It's because there's some place you've been on the internet that's put a little cookie or a pixel on your browser, and as you continue surfing the internet, that's interacting with the Google banner ads, and it is selecting an ad for you based on you. So I can't think of an ad. I don't pay close attention to the ads I see, but if you're getting sexy singles ads on The Rebel, it's because you're being on some sexy single pages. And if you're getting Tommy Robinson coming up in the algorithm, it's because you're obsessed by him. And it's not because he's vile or poison. That's just mean talk for someone you disagree with. Tommy Robinson has never been charged with a hate crime of any sort. He, in my view, was wrongly convicted of contempt of court, but that wasn't for the content of what he said, that was for allegedly saying anything at all about the trial. In the past, it was contempt of court for being on the courthouse steps, not for what he said on the courthouse steps in any meaningful way. He said rapist instead of accused rapist, but that's not hate, frankly, that's a presumption of innocence issue. In the past, he had other scuffles with the law, but none of them went to the moral turpitude of hate. These Labour MPs are making it up. Why did I show you so much about those Labour MPs? Because do you see the hounding, the obsession? That goes on. That goes on and on and on. I won't show you anymore. They get more and more irritable, and at least as far as I watched, William McCants held the line and he kept saying, I don't know that particular video, and I'll bring it back to our people. And, oh, you want me to ban that video? Well, I'll bring it back to our people. And they just got more and more frustrated by the fact that he wasn't as obsessed with Tommy as they were. But you see, if that's how they talk about banning videos in public, imagine what they say to YouTube, Google, Twitter, Facebook in private. We have about 1 minute left. Can you guys find that Toronto Star front page about Justin Trudeau on Facebook? I'd like to end on that one. I'll read a super chat and then I'll show you a Toronto Star article. /Satan says, even if Tommy does get out early, will they make it a violation for him to speak like last time when he wasn't able to speak to EDL members, and contempt should only apply in court, not out in public? If he gets out on tag or parole, as we call it here, I don't think they would have those conditions, although Tommy's had conditions before. They call it a license. I'm just not that expert in the UK law. They could. Although allegedly, if he went in because of contempt of court, it would be odd if they banned him from talking about a certain thing. Let me close with the story from the Toronto Star the other day. Look at this. Trudeau, that's Canada's Prime Minister, to Facebook, fix your fake news problem or face stricter regulations. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has warned social networking giant Facebook it needs to fix its fake news problems or face stronger regulation from Ottawa. Trudeau told Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg in November he was concerned the company wasn't doing enough to stop the spread of misleading information on their platform, a source with direct knowledge of the conversation told the Star. So if you just saw what leftist social justice warrior censors are willing to say in public, their fury at Tommy Robinson, about Breitbart in America, about the rebel in Canada, you can only imagine what they're doing behind the scenes. And we don't know what these companies are agreeing to just to get the heat off them. I think those Labour politicians were a bunch of buffoons. I think they were foolish. I think they embarrassed themselves, and I think they're not living up to the British ideals of freedom of speech. But that's who they are. And that Google exec was not having a good time. I think he went back to his head office and said, what can we do to appease these people? Who is this Tommy Robinson I've heard about? And how can we ban him like Twitter has done? I wanted you to see that video because I thought it was very revealing. It's 1 o'clock. It's actually 1:01. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Luton Standard Time. Until then, on behalf of us here at the Rebel World Headquarters, keep fighting for freedom. Bye-bye.